What's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks NBA. Welcome back, I guess I should say, because it's been a fucking hot minute here since I hopped on here and talked some hoops with you guys. But it's been a busy year, man. Overall, haven't been able to get the content out that I really want to get out to you guys, especially on this channel. I've been focusing a lot on Philly sports. Obviously, NFL free agency just kicked off, so that's kept me busy. College basketball, that's kept me busy. But nonetheless, over the last year, I've just been dealing with a lot. I graduated, got married. So in the coming year, content will be a lot more consistent, specifically on this channel, Scotty Talks NBA, where we cover the entire NBA. I'm going to be sure to get content out to you guys going forward at least once a week, but I like to get it out 2 times a week just because the NBA is ever changing. It's a fast-paced league. It's a fast-paced regular season. And before you know it, we're going to be in the playoffs. So definitely want to get up to speed with everybody on this season before we hit the postseason. And that way we are all aligned here. Viewers, host here, myself, and any other people that we have on the show in the future. We'll all be aligned here on my thoughts, at least. And that's the point of the show. But be sure, comment, let me know how you're feeling out there. Definitely want your opinions on all the topics we're going to go over today. We're going to go over top 10 power rankings. Like I mentioned, it's been a while, man. It's been a while since I hopped on here and chatted with you guys. So I feel like the easiest way to catch up, talk about the top 10 teams, in my opinion, in the NBA right now, one by one, list them in order. And it'll kind of give you a great overview of my perspective on the NBA right now and what's going on. After that, we're going to get into my top 5 contenders. So this is different from power rankings. Power rankings, week to week, day to day, month to month, regular season rankings, right? Contenders, when I talk about top 5 contenders, it means what I've seen holistically throughout this season, not just who's hot right now, who's getting hot right now, what I've seen throughout the whole season, injury statuses, all of that included. Who are the 5 teams that I think have the best chance at winning it all? I'll put those in order for you as well. Once again, give you that perspective, give you an understanding of my perspective on the NBA and who's going to really go out here and have a chance to win this title this season. I do want to talk about the Western Conference play-in. Obviously, there's some stuff going on in the Eastern Conference, but the bottom of the East, man, that's just a big heaping pile of shit. When you get to about the Magic, I think it is. I think the Pacers are above the Sixers right now. You could maybe throw the Pacers, but they have not looked the same even since Halliburton has returned, since the play-in tournament. That Pacers team has not looked the same. So I would say Pacers down in the Eastern Conference. That's including my 76ers, is a big walking heap of shit. Then you look at the Miami Heat even, right? That would be the team out of the bottom there that you would probably pick to maybe rise over the next few weeks before the playoffs start, right? They've lost 4 in a row. They're in the 8th seed. They need to win games, so the urgency should be there. I get it's the Heat. They can turn it on at any time. The urgency should be there. They're not locked into the postseason yet, and to be losing 4 in a row right now, definitely not a good look. But I do want to take a look at the Western Conference bottom tier there, right? You have the Pelicans at the 5 seed. They're 39-26, all the way down to the Warriors at the 10 seed at 34-31. Want to take a look at that playoff picture, specifically the play-in part of the Western Conference, because it's so tight right there. And I'm going to give you my teams that I think are ultimately going to win it, or not win it, not win the play-in tournament, but ultimately going to make the postseason is what I'm trying to say here. So we got 4 teams out of a group of 6 that I'm going to pick through here. And I definitely want to know what you guys think throughout all 3 of these segments. This is all we're going to cover today, along with just a recap of last night's action. We'll get into a little bit of tonight's action predictions there. But aside from that, these are the 3 topics: Western Conference play-in situation, who are the 5 top teams that I think can win the NBA championship this season, and then top 10 power rankings. Once again, this episode is going to serve as kind of a catch-up episode, right? It's been so long. Want to let you guys know where I'm at currently on the league. But going forward, we'll get into some more deeper topics, right? We'll take a look at some of these teams that are in the mix here and what does the rest of their schedule look like. How tough is it going to be for them to get to the postseason? We'll take a look at that type of stuff in the coming weeks. But for today, let's just start with last night's action. I've said a lot, right? Let's tone it down a little bit. Let's slow down. Let's look at last night's action and see what took place here. So the big ones on national television, you had the Celtics hosting the Phoenix Suns. We had the Thunder hosting the Luka-less Dallas Mavericks. Let's start in Boston. You had the 127-112 win, Celtics over the Phoenix Suns. Wanted to shout out this game specifically because my boy from Arsenal, Bukayo Saka, was there. Did a little jersey exchange with Jaylen Brown. I'm not cool with that. Obviously, I hate the Celtics, but Bukayo Saka in America, enjoying himself, enjoying some NBA basketball. I loved to see that. So shout out to Bukayo Saka. Anytime I can mention Arsenal on my NBA show, I'm going to do that. Gotta love the Gunners, man. By the way, any Champions League, any English Premier League people out there, big Gunners fan, follow me on Twitter. I'm always talking soccer on there. Don't do any pods about it because I'm not an expert. I just came on to the English Premier League a few years ago. Just fell in love with Arsenal a few years ago. So I'm not an expert. I'm not going to start a podcast on it, but follow me on Twitter, definitely at Scotty Drowned. If you want any more content regarding the Gunners, English Premier, Champions League, I cover it all. Gunners just pulled Bayern Munich in the next round of the Champions League, which is exciting. Nonetheless, off topic. Let's get back to NBA. Bukayo Saka visiting Boston last night for this Boston Celtics Phoenix Suns game. This is a Phoenix Suns team who got Devin Booker back. Didn't have his greatest showing last night. 9 for 20 from the field, 23 points. Had Grayson Allen in this one, 4 for 5 from the three-point line, 20 points. Bradley Beal, 22 points, 7 assists, 3 rebounds, 9 for 17 from the field. And then KD, 20 points, 3 rebounds, 9 for 19 from the field. KD's the funny one, right? Because I think he had, 15 points in the first quarter. And a couple of my boys had some slips and some betting slips with Kevin Durant, 25-plus points. He scores 15 in the first quarter. Everybody's ecstatic, right? Ends up with 20. Scores 5 points the rest of the game. Don't really know how that happens, but probably explains why they ended up losing this one by 15 points total. The guy leading the way for the Boston Celtics, Jaylen Brown, 37 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 14 from 23 from the field, 5 for 9 from the three-point line. All the talk about Jason Tatum being an MVP candidate, and mind you, on my last episode a few weeks back, I mentioned Jason Tatum as a legitimate MVP candidate. He has fallen so far from the rankings since that moment, and it's to the point now where you have arguments going around, is Jaylen Brown the best player on the Boston Celtics? I think it's a fair argument given what you've seen. Caught Jaylen Brown liking a tweet on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And basically it was a tweet saying if the Boston Celtics didn't have Jason Tatum, this person would be convinced that Jaylen Brown could average 35 per game on the Boston Celtics being the lead man. And he liked the tweet. He obviously believes that. That's not necessarily him throwing a shot at Jason Tatum. That's just him believing in himself. But it's a conversation, and it's something that's going to arise if this if this trend continues in the postseason, kind of Jaylen Brown leading the way, Jason Tatum the number 2 in a sense. It's just been like that the last few weeks. That's all I'm saying. Al Horford in this game, god damn it, I'm tired of this dude. 24 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. The big thing here, 6 for goddamn 10 from the three-point line. Are you fucking kidding me? 6 3-pointers from Al Horford. When you lose like that would explain why you lost by 15, right? These guys hit 25 threes in this game. That was 14 more threes than the Phoenix Suns. That's going to be the difference for you right there. They shot 50% from the three-point line. Once again, this Boston Celtics team is deadly. They definitely have a few fraud tendencies mixed in there. And the only reason I say that is strictly Jason Tatum, right? Like, he has some major fraud tendencies in big moments that just worries me. But worry is something you have to put in context here with the Boston Celtics. Worry to the extent of winning an NBA title, showing up in the biggest stage, which is in the NBA Finals. That's where my worry comes with Jason Tatum and this fraudulent worry around the Celtics. I think the other thing, obviously, I just commended Jaylen Brown, just talked about how he's kind of ascended this season. there's still the conversation about him only being able to use his one hand. And obviously, we'll see how that goes when the defense turns it up a notch in the postseason. But, I mean, the addition of KP, there's almost too much talent on this Boston Celtics team to even acknowledge the fraudulent tendencies that they have. And that's just where we're at. 52-14 is 52-14. But they come away with the W last night against the Phoenix Suns, who are fighting for a play-in spot or a playoff spot in the Western Conference right now. Aside from that, you had the Sixers heading to Milwaukee to take on the Bucks in the Eastern Conference. This was a 114-105 loss for the Sixers. Tyrese Maxey, 30 points, 5 for 9 from the three-point line, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Giannis in this one, 32 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists, 9 for 12 from the field. Watched this game personally. Obviously, I'm a Sixers fan. That's what I had my eyes glued on. Maxey, man, just unbelievable the things that he can get done on the basketball court. And mind you, he has to have one, if not the worst, officiating whistle in the NBA. If you watch some of the clips from last night, 3-4 arms smacking down on my man as he drives to the lane. He's finishing at the rack through all the contact. No foul calls. Has to look up at the ref. I mean, he got up from the floor, right? Getting thrown to the floor, driving to the rack last night at least 10 times. Looks up at the ref and is just like, what the fuck? And it's like, after you complain about it the third or fourth time already, there's no point in complaining about it anymore, right? They're just not calling it. And that's the point it got to last night. Maxey, 3 free throws, driving in the lane, right? 30 points. Giannis, 18 free throws. Why are these guys getting officiated completely different? Watch the game. If you have an argument, watch the game, watch the film, watch the highlights, and you'll see exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. But nonetheless, knew the Sixers didn't have a great chance of winning this game. Giannis got a chance to inflate his stats in the fourth quarter with all the free throws. Dame in this game, he was kind of ineffective. 17 points, still good. 9 assists, still good. But not on a Dame scale. 7 for 16 from the field, 2 for 7 from the three-point line. Brook Lopez, 19 points, 5 for 10 from the three-point line, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. He had a big game. Bucks come away with the win here. The Clippers visiting the Bulls. They come away with a 126-111 win. Guy leading the way there, Paul George, hit some tough shots. 6 for 7 from the three-point line, 11 for 12 from the field, 28 points. He only missed 1 shot. It was from the three-point line. 5 rebounds, 7 assists for PG-13. Kawhi, 27 points, 12 for 17 from the field. On the other side, you had the Bulls. DeMar DeRozan leading the way with 21 points there on 6 for 16 shooting. Rockets Wizards, 135-119. Rockets win. I'm not going to spend any time there. Although, shout out to Jalen Green. He put somebody on their ass last night and cashed a 3 out. Can't remember who it was, but nice move. Big win for the Rockets. You had the Thunder at home against the Mavericks without Luka. Definitely wanted to spotlight my man Kyrie Irving. I've been on and off with Kyrie. He's a Duke product, but I don't agree with some of the social things that he's put out there in the past. Although I am coming around, I'm starting to understand where this guy comes from. Nonetheless, great NBA talent. 36 points, 12 for 18 from the field last night, 12 assists, 4 for 7 from the three-point line. Somebody mentioned it on Twitter. I thought it was interesting. It's interesting. Does Luka Doncic hold Kyrie Irving back? And it's put it into context, right? It's not to say Luka Doncic makes the Mavericks worse or, is just this big indictment on Kyrie and his production. But does Luka have the ball in his hands too much in a sense, right? Looking at what Kyrie was able to do in this game where he got to lead the way, 36 points, 12 assists, 4 for 7 from the three-point line, 12 for 18 from the field. Maybe, just maybe, he should have the ball in his hands a little bit more, just a little bit more. Not trying to indict Luka Doncic because we know how great he is. Nonetheless, you go to the other side here, SGA, man. 31 points, up over the 30-point mark again, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. Jalen Williams, God, this guy is so impressive. He's got to be, I know Maxey's up there for most improved player of the year, but Jalen Williams, got to be in the conversation. 27 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 11 for 21 from the field, 3 for 5 from the three-point line. OKC returns to the top of the Western Conference for now, right? Then finally, to end the night, you had the Knicks visiting the Portland Trailblazers. Jalen Brunson had a huge game out there in Portland. 45 points, 14 from 30 from the field. A measly 2 for 10 from the three-point line, but nonetheless, 45 points, got to the free throw line 17 times, 15 to 17 from the free throw line. Knicks come away with a 12-point victory. That's all of action from last night. That's all that I found interesting from it. Definitely share your thoughts in the comments. Anything that surprised you, anything I may have missed, definitely let me know down there in the comments. But let's get to the power rankings here. We're going to change the screen a little bit. It's looking a little dull. It's because I got my power rankings graphic right here for you. So updated power rankings as of today, March 15th. Happy Friday, right? Friday the 15th of 2024. We'll start from the bottom, even though you can see the entire list here. And I got the Magic coming in at number 10. The Magic, this is a team that's 7-3 in their last 10. They're currently number 5 in the Eastern Conference. They're 38-28. The reason they come in at number 10, one, the Eastern Conference is a little out of whack right now. So when you look at the Magic and then you look what's below them, it's hard to put any of those teams on this list. So I wanted to give the Magic a little bit of respect here. They have a defensive identity. They have a bona fide superstar, in my opinion, in Paolo Banchero. He's just going to keep ascending. Got his first All-Star game this year. It's only up from there. And I mean, my goodness, this kid is putting up great numbers. Right now, Paolo Banchero, 23 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, 5 assists on 46% from the field, 36% from 3, and 71% from the free throw line. He's doing everything for this team. He's the number one on this team. But then you do have guys like Franz Wagner, right? Like Jalen Suggs, right? Guys that are contributing, guys that are finding the roles on this team. And I love the extension for their head coach recently as well, Mosley. I think he's doing a great job establishing a defensive identity. Every team needs an identity. You got to find it where you can get it. And, of course, yes, they would love to have more shooting. I'm sure the Orlando Magic would have loved to have added a shooter at the deadline. I'm sure they're going to add shooting this offseason. But right now, their identity is defense, and they got to live and die by it. And I think that's not the worst way to be approaching the postseason right now. So the Magic round out my top 10 here at 38-28. Number 9, you see the Cleveland Cavaliers. They were, previously number 8 on my list. They did move down a spot. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell missed some time. He returned last night. They were able to get back in the win column. Maybe not last night, excuse me. The night before last night, he was able to return. They were able to get back in the win column. But nonetheless, I like what the Cavs have done. You see how they're below the Knicks, a team that they're ahead of in the standings. That's, for me, I just like the Knicks a little bit more in that situation. So that's why you see them above the Cavs. But had to give the Eastern Conference a little bit of shine in these power rankings. Couldn't have a power ranking top 10 of just Western Conference teams, although I contemplated every Eastern Conference team that's on this list, I contemplated at one point outside of the Bucks and the Celtics. But nonetheless, Cavs come in at number 9 at 42-24 currently, number 3 in the Eastern Conference. Number 8, I have the New Orleans Pelicans. They're currently number 5 in the Western Conference. They're 6-4 in their last 10, 39-26 on the season. Obviously, they have kind of been flying under the radar, and I think that's a good thing for them. I think that's a good thing for Zion. Brandon Ingram been playing some really good basketball. They got Trey Murphy, the third back. He's obviously a big piece to what they're trying to do in floor spacing, length, athleticism. CJ McCollum playing some good basketball. They're getting healthy at the right time. Just need Zion to stay in the rotation, stay healthy for the rest of this season so they have a good amount of chemistry going into the postseason. Nonetheless, I like what the Pelicans are doing out there in the tough Western Conference. Number 7, I mentioned the New York Knicks. Just got OG Anunoby back. They've won some games since his return. Jalen Brunson had a little bit of a scare there. He's returned, obviously had 45 points last night. He's fine. Newsflash, if you were worried, Jalen Brunson is fine. This Knicks team, man, they have this hard-nosed identity. Obviously, it's defense, But then you do have the catalyst on offense and Jalen Brunson that can lead the way. Like last night, 45 points. He can give you that on any given night, not nightly basis, but he can give you 30 on a nightly basis. I truly believe that in the postseason. But on any given night, he can take over a game, give you 45, 50 points, and can win you a playoff game. And I think that's huge for a defensive-minded team like the New York Knicks. They have a ton of options. They have a ton of hard-nosed, hard-working guys like Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, even Hartenstein at the center position, right? They have a ton of guys that will go out there and give their will, right? And even guys like, what's his name? It's slipping my mind. Is it McGruder? McBride, excuse me, McBride. I was getting him confused with McGruder. But Miles McBride, he comes in, he plays hard, man. I got a chance to watch them up close and personal in 2 straight games against the Sixers this past week. So got an up close and personal view at the Knicks. I would go this far with the New York Knicks, and it shows in my power rankings, but Boston, Milwaukee, New York Knicks, when it comes to contenders in the Eastern Conference, teams that, as a Sixers fan, even with Embiid, which teams in the Eastern Conference would I fear the most? It would go in that order currently: the Celtics, Bucks, New York Knicks. I think there's an argument for the Knicks over the Bucks. Bucks show some major fraud tendencies, in my opinion. They're next on my list at number 6, 43-24, number 2 in the Eastern Conference, 7-3 in their last 10. Big W against Philly last night at home. Just something I don't like about this team. Like, they're playing better basketball since the All-Star break, since bringing Doc Rivers in, since bringing Pat Bev in. Damian Lillard, I don't trust him. That's one big part to it. Chris Middleton's health, they're going to need him throughout going down the stretch in the postseason. They're going to need him, and they're going to need him to be productive. He hasn't played much this season at all. So Damian Lillard, I don't trust him come postseason defensively, the streakiness, the inconsistency. Chris Middleton, injury status, and Doc Rivers. 3 reasons that they have fraud potential all over them. Nonetheless, you got to give them credit for what they've done this regular season, 43-24, number 2 in the Eastern Conference. Coming in at number 5, we have the Minnesota T-Wolves. They've dropped a little bit for me here, obviously due to the cat injury, but they have showed me that they still got enough there to compete come the postseason, especially if they can get Cat back second round. That's the big thing for me. That's the big timeline marker for the Minnesota Timberwolves, in my opinion, getting Cat back by the second round. I think they can win the first round without him. T-Wolves right now, 45-21, number 3 in the Western Conference, 6-4 in their last 10. I expect Ant Edwards to continue the ascension without Cat in the lineup. I think him having that kind of unlimited shot capability now, right? You don't have to count your shots when you lose a guy like Cat and you're Ant Edwards. You probably shouldn't anyways, given the talent that Ant Edwards carries. But I do think this is only going to make this team better. When you get a guy like Cat back, right, after you've had to make up for his 20 to 25 points per game, his great shooting from the three-point line, it's going to be a relief to get a guy like that back come postseason, especially if it's going into the second round where you're going to need him most. But I still love the defensive identity around this team with Rudy Gobert in the middle. And the big thing for me, when you look at contenders, and I'm going to talk about this a lot in the next segment, so I don't want to say too much here, but when you look at contenders, who can compete with the goddamn Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic? Who can match up with him? The Timberwolves have the size. That's all I'll say. They have the size. Coming in at number 4, we have the LA Clippers. Timberwolves and Clippers, it was tough for me to decide here. They're both teams that are highly dependent on health, right? All teams are highly dependent on health. But these two teams specifically, Timberwolves dealing with injuries, Clippers, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and even James Harden in his later years. You got Russ Westbrook out with the broken hand right now. I went with the Clippers right now because Kawhi, PG, James Harden all played recently, all healthy, all able to step on the court right now as a team. And so to that point, I just like them as a team better right now. The LA Clippers are 42-23, number 4 in the Western Conference, 5-5 in their last 10. Number 3, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder, 46-20. They're number 1 seed in the Western Conference. They're 7-3 in their last 10. And they're on a 1-game winning streak, obviously coming off the W last night against the Mavericks. Number 2, just to finish out really quick here, I feel like these top 3 teams explain for themselves, but the Celtics 52-14 at my number 2 spot here, number 1 in the Eastern Conference, best record in the NBA, 8-2 in their last 10. They've won 4 in a row. The big thing here, why the Celtics are below the Nuggets, they just squared off recently, and the Celtics had no answer for Nikola Jokic and even Aaron Gordon. I mean, those guys played at a different level, and that's with Kristaps Porzingis, who played pretty well in that game, quite honestly. So all that being said, I had to put the Nuggets above the Celtics, even though the Celtics have 6 games basically on the Nuggets and the rest of the NBA for the best record in the league. Had to go with the Nuggets until you can, until somebody beats them, right? Like, I have to go with the Nuggets right now. They've turned it on since All-Star break. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They've won 4 in a row. They're 46-20. Yes, they're number 2 in the Western Conference with OKC leading the way there. They got the same record, although OKC has the tiebreaker with the season series. Nuggets for my money, and we can take this into the next segment. I'll take this off the screen, get us set back up here. But the Nuggets for my money, guys, if you can't tell, they're the number 1 contender in the NBA for the NBA title. Easily. Like, easily. They coasted the first half of the season. It's expected at this point. I mean, Nikola Jokic is a guy, he's won 2 MVPs. He doesn't really need to win another one, although he's the leading candidate right now, believe it or not. So you start out the season, he's not that motivated coming off an NBA championship, right? They know they got to make it throughout the season. They got to make it healthy, and they just need to get to the postseason where their true talents are going to shine. But since the All-Star break, as I mentioned, they have locked all the way in. And I mentioned they're 9-1 in their last 10. But it's really just these big matchups that pop up on the schedule, like the Celtics recently. Let me get that game pulled up here. It's these big matchups, and it feels like when these big matchups arise, the Nuggets seem to answer the call, especially when it's on national television, especially when everybody's got all their eyes on them and the opponent that they're playing. And in this game against the Celtics, they were able to take care of business, 115-109. They were able to limit Jason Tatum to 15 points. Kristaps Porzingis, like I said, 24-12 in this game. Shot 9 for 23. Wasn't great from the field, but 24-12 in this game. Jaylen Brown, 41 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists in this game, 16 for 29 from the field. Then you go to the other side. Who's going to answer the call against Nikola Jokic? And that's the question for every team around the league, but even for the team with the best record in the league. Who do you have that's going to answer the call against Nikola Jokic? Nikola Jokic in this game, 32 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, 11 for 19 from the field. Didn't take one 3-point shot, meaning he put his ass in the paint and he dominated from all aspects of this game. That's why I have the Nuggets as my number 1 contender. It's part of the reason, right? The Celtics are just the big example recently, but they do this to just about any team that they want to right now. My number 2 contender in the entire league, and I think this one's going to catch you guys by surprise. The Minnesota Timberwolves. I get it. Cat is out. I believe he's out for at least the next 4 weeks due to his knee injury. He got his meniscus repaired, I believe. The big thing for me with the Timberwolves, this is a caveat. Put an asterisk by the number 2 in the Timberwolves. If Cat returns by round 2, that's the big key. Even a little bit before would be even better, obviously, right? Give him maybe a game in the first round just to get right. Maybe it's a closeout game for him where gets limited minutes, can just get right, get his conditioning, get his lungs under him. But nonetheless, he needs to return by round 2 for this team to get by. And like I said, I think they can stay afloat in the first round. I think they can stay afloat there without him. They're going to need him when they get into the second round, when they get into the matchups with the Denver Nuggets, with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Think you're going to need him in his scoring prowess in order to beat teams like that. But the big thing here, why I have them number 2, you have Ant Edwards, who arguably the biggest star in the league. Like his talent, his peak is up there with the top of the NBA, in my opinion. Like you have Joel Embiid peak, a Jason Tatum peak, a Luka Doncic peak, a Nikola Jokic peak. I think Ant Edwards' peak is right up there with all of those big name guys, just like every other superstar. He's arguably the superstar in the league with the most potential. I mean, given his age, given his athletic ability, given his skill set. So you have Ant Edwards, right? A guy that can go get you a bucket at any point in the game. I talked about Jalen Brunson. Well, Ant Edwards on an even bigger scale for that magnitude. A guy that can go out and win you a game, right? It's game 6, right? I always think of this analogy because I watched it happen with the Celtics. It's game 6 last year. You have Joel Embiid, you have James Harden, blah, blah, blah. Sixers can close it out at home. Jason Tatum, he's cold the entire game, right? And then goes off in the fourth quarter of that game 6. You get to game 7. Jason Tatum goes off. I think it was for 50 points. It might have been 60. It was at least 50 points in that game 7 where he closed us out in Boston. Ant Edwards has that type of ability. I think he can be more consistent in what Tatum was in that series, but I like to use that example of just go out there and win me one game this series, and that might be the difference in the series, right? Like from one player perspective. Ant Edwards has that capability. But the other side of it is you have Rudy Gobert leading the way defensively there. You have guys like, I always get them confused, the Twins. I know one of the McDaniels were on the Sixers last year. I can't remember if it's Jalen or Jaden. But nonetheless, McDaniels, he's lengthy. He's a prototypical 3-and-D guy. He's athletic. Having those type of guys on this team, a Naz Reid that comes off the bench, they will need Cat, but the defensive prowess, the defensive identity is something I really like, especially against the tops of the Western Conference, like the Denver Nuggets. I love that matchup for them. Having a Rudy Gobert to go and battle it out with Jokic. Jokic is going to outproduce mostly anybody, any center in the league, outside of maybe Joel Embiid, right? Rudy Gobert is probably the best defensive center in the NBA. I mean, there's other arguments to be had, but he's up there. So when you talk about that matchup, I really like that for the T-Wolves. You just need Cat by the second round. Number 3, the Boston Celtics. Number 1 team in the Eastern Conference, 52-14. As I mentioned earlier during the power rankings, I think they have major fraud tendencies. Don't get me wrong. Jason Tatum shows major signs of being a fraud. All that being said, Joe Mazzulla, he's questionable head coach, right? Like, I get it. He has his times. He has his moments. He's a questionable head coach. Jaylen Brown, he's playing out of his mind right now. Don't get it wrong. He's playing out of his mind right now. Can he use his offhand? When you get to the postseason, things tighten up. Can he use his offhand? It's a big question. There's some question marks around this Boston Celtics team. All that being said, it's like I said earlier in the show, they have so much talent that the fraud concerns almost have to be ignored until you get to this conversation right here. This is the only – we're talking about the Nuggets and then maybe the T-Wolves, if they're healthy, being a better contender, a better contender than, the Boston Celtics, who currently lead the league right now at 52-14. 52-14 is 52-14. 52 wins so far this season, 14 losses. Hella talent on that team. I would just take about 2 teams over them right now. Number 4, I brought in the LA Clippers. The big thing I have written down here for them, as far as them contending, being a top 5 team to contend for the title this year, it's the health of Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, all guys who have decently extensive injury histories, especially of late when you talk about a James Harden. But PG and Kawhi, they've dealt with it their whole career. When they're healthy, they're 2 of the top players in the NBA. When they're not, their teams suffer because they do miss a lot of time. That being said, they're all healthy right now. They played last night. Let's keep that going. They have a big shot of winning the title if they can stay healthy. It's a huge if. And then finally, number 5, my number 5 contender for the NBA title this season is going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'll throw this to you. It's the only thing I'm going to say regarding them because they're so young. It's just they're overachieving. For them to even be in this conversation is an accomplishment for them. Youth. That's the only reason that they're not arguably number 1 on this list, right? They're the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Why they're not number 3, right? Like maybe put them behind or number 4. Like, it's youth. That's the only reason they're not closer to the top of this list, if not at the top of it, because they have all the talent at the world. You talk about a big, light Chet Holmgren. They brought in a Gordon Hayward for veteran experience. They got a Jalen Williams to pair with SGA that can score the rock. Then you got guys like Lou Dort, your prototypical 3-and-D. Josh Giddey, he can hit the boards. He can play make. Gave them a solid 18 points last night. I mean, he has this thing going on where guys are not guarding him at the three-point line. It happens to a few guys in this league. He's got to adjust to that. But aside from that, he can fill the stat sheet. Isaiah Joe can light you up from so on and so forth. This team is very, very fun, exciting. The only reason they're not higher on this list of contenders is simply because of their age, the youth on this roster. But those would be my top 5 teams that have the best shot at winning the NBA title, in my opinion, right now. OKC, they're number 5, youth. LA Clippers, number 4, health is the biggest thing for them. The Celtics, number 3, just don't be fraudulent. I mean, your record says you're the best team in the NBA. Don't be frauds. 52-14 is 52-14. The Minnesota Timberwolves, if Cat can return by round 2, that's the big asterisk for me. I love their defensive identity. And then the champions, the current champions, the Denver Nuggets. They coasted the first half of the season. They've been locked in since the All-Star break. They're 9-1 in their last 10. And they answer every call, right? That's the big thing for me. They answer every single test and they ace it. So that's going to round out top 5 contenders, top 10 power rankings. Let's take a look at this Western Conference plan. I just want to talk about this briefly. I've already kind of gone over the amount of time that I wanted to use here today. Going to try to keep these closer to 30 minutes, get the information out to you quick. I know you guys don't like to sit around there. So Western Conference play-in situation, very interesting right now. When you look at it, you have to ask yourself, Zion, LeBron, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Luka Doncic, Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, Anthony Davis, so on and so forth. The stars of these 6 teams, that are facing a potential play-in tournament, right, to get into the postseason in the Western Conference. Who's going to not make it? That's my question to you guys. Definitely share your thoughts in the comments. I'm going to give you my 4 teams that I think are going to make it out of these 6 and why. So first of all, I have the Pelicans here. The Pelicans are making it for my money. I think they will hold up. I think they'll stay at the top of this list. I think their defensive identity, I think that's the biggest thing for me. You look at them, very versatile. Getting Trey Murphy, the third back, for the shooting purposes, the floor spacing purposes was huge. There's just guys like Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, guys that have been playing well. They've gotten Jose Alvarado, these key bench pieces back in the lineup from injuries. So I really do like what the Pelicans are doing. And I think they're in a good spot right now. Out of all these teams, they're probably in the best spot right now, being the 5th seed at 38-27. I like the Pelicans' deep roster, versatile roster. And I think they can be – I don't think the Pelicans are contenders to win the NBA title, but I think in the Western Conference, it's a team that you would like to avoid if you could, right? Like Zion, Brandon Ingram, these are guys that you could argue have not lived up to their potential in the NBA, but you know what their peak is when they are on. And that would be a concern for me with the Pelicans and potentially playing them in the postseason. The next team in this order, so you got the Pelicans at 5, Kings at number 6, 38-27. You have the Suns 38-28 at the 7th seed. You have the Mavs 38-29 at the 8th seed. Lakers 36-31 at 9, and the Golden State Warriors at 34-31. So I'll go through this quickly for you. I got the Pelicans making it. Obviously, I already mentioned them. I have the Suns making it 38-28 right now. So I have them jumping out of the play-in tournament and getting ahead of the Kings by the end of this season to get into the 6th seed. After the Suns, this is where it gets really interesting for me. So you got the Kings, the Mavs, the Lakers, and the Warriors left here. I'll go ahead and cancel one out for you. I don't think the Warriors are making the postseason. I think they will make the play-in tournament. Obviously, they'll be the 10th seed for my money. Steph dealing with the ankle injury right now. Things have just not been great for the Warriors. It doesn't feel like a year where they're getting a lot of the success. And a Draymond Green injury just popped up as well for them. So let's go ahead. We'll cancel the Warriors out. Cross them off the list. They're not getting in. Next, you go up, right, to the number 9 seed right now is the LA Lakers, 31-36. I do think the Lakers make it. You know, I'm not a big Lakers guy. I actually hate the Lakers. I think they get talked about too much. I think they're not worth the time a lot of the time that they get talked about, especially when they're the fucking 9 seed in the Western Conference. That being said, when I look at the other teams ahead of them, I have concerns for mostly all of them. Like outside of the Pelicans, I have concerns for the Suns. Obviously, their health. They get Devin Booker back. Can he stay healthy? Bradley Beal, can he stay healthy? But I do like Pelicans, then the Suns for the 5-6. I like the Lakers to somehow, right? It's going to take a lot. They're 36-31, but they're what? 2 games behind the Mavericks, 2.5 games behind the Suns right now. I like the Lakers to get up to the 7 seed, so still that first seed in the play-in tournament. And then after the Lakers, once again, this is where it gets interesting. I'm torn between the Kings and the Cavs as that final spot, the 8 seed, right? Like, obviously, they're going to play in the play-in tournament. It matters who beats who in that. But when we talk about who's going to make the playoffs, 5 through 8 seed, I like the Pelicans. I like the Suns. I like the Lakers. And then it's between the Mavs and the Kings for me. And the reason that I lean Kings, I was about to get it incorrect. The reason I lean Kings in this situation is because they're healthy. Luka Doncic, he's dealing with a hamstring injury. You're talking about a guy that doesn't play much defense anyways. He's not the quickest guy anyways. He's not the most athletic guy anyways. And he's dealing with a hamstring injury. I don't like that. I definitely don't like that at this stretch of the season. So for my money, I'm going with health here. Domantas Sabonis on a crazy tear right now. I'm going to go with the Kings as my final playoff, my final play-in and get-in team here. So my 4 teams that I have making the playoffs out of these 6 is going to be the Pelicans, the Suns, the Lakers, and the Kings, all in that order. You could maybe flip-flop the Kings and the Lakers, 7 and 8 seed, just because of where the Kings are right now. And the Kings' record against the Lakers this season, they have the tiebreaker. But nonetheless, those would be the 4 out of those 6 teams, with the odd teams out being the Dallas Mavericks, who hamstring injury to Luka, worrisome on the defensive end of the ball. That's not a great pedigree to ultimately play through this tough stretch and make the postseason. The Golden State Warriors, just injuries. They're mounting up. It's becoming too much for these guys. So I like the Pelicans, Suns, Lakers, and Kings to make it to round out the Western Conference playoff rotation. Things can change as we approach the playoffs. Obviously, we got a few weeks mixed in there, but what we're going to start doing in the upcoming weeks, we're going to stop looking at it so holistically, because I just wanted to get you guys caught up on where I'm at in the season right now. We're going to dive into some specific teams in the upcoming episodes, take a look at their paths, and see what they need to do to make sure they make the playoffs and put them in the best spot to be successful in the playoffs. We'll also take a look at how guys are trending throughout the league, trending towards MVP, most improved. We'll take a look at that stuff in the coming weeks, but we'll definitely be back with more consistent content for you guys going forward and to finish out the NBA season. I'll be back next Friday. We're going to try to do this same time, same place. I'm contemplating Fridays, Saturdays. Definitely let me know in the comments which is better for you, what you prefer viewership-wise. I think Saturdays would be easier for me, especially in the earlier morning. But Fridays in the evening is still an option here as well. And I may end up doing 2 shows a week in the coming future. So I'll keep you guys posted. We'll get the content out more consistently. But thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed, and definitely share all of your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Help me grow here. I want to get more eyes on the podcast so that I can talk with you guys more. We can have more thoughts involved in the show, and it just gives you a better show. It's better to have multiple opinions than just mine. So definitely let your thoughts known in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be sure to like the video, help it get out to more viewers. And be sure to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Scotty Drowned. You can find DSM Media, who this podcast is brought to you by, at DSM_media. Have a great Friday, everybody. Enjoy your Friday evening, people.